Hello and welcome to the Peck Pack Podcast, episode 7. We're excited to be here, and I hopefully you can excuse my voice a little bit. We've been sick for the last 2 weeks, and so my voice is a little gravelly, but maybe it'll sound cool on the podcast. Today, well, hopefully y'all had amazing holidays, and we're glad to be back after holidays, after our break, and excited to share more about our experiences and our stories, and hopefully hear some of yours and your experiences with this topic. Today we wanted to talk about our experiences dating after divorce and kind of some do's and don'ts of what we found worked with us as far as dating after divorce. And so I'll go ahead and let Mallory start us off with that, and she can share her experiences and kind of her thoughts on that subject.
So I honestly don't have a ton of experience with dating. I met my first husband when I was 16, and then after my divorce, I met him pretty quickly. So I don't have a ton of experience, but I think that some of the biggest things that were important to me were to keep my values as number one. Like, I wasn't willing to compromise what I wanted and what I knew I deserved. And I wanted to have fun, which was a big thing for me. I wanted to be able to experience being a young adult, and I wanted to be safe, which is huge for dating in this world, in this day and age. And I really just wanted to find someone that was going to respect me and love me and put me first. So I got on dating apps pretty quickly after my divorce. And I just started talking to people. And so I think it really depends on what you're looking for. But I found love on a dating app, and so I'm not gonna say that they're not worth it, but I know that they're not for everyone. But I think, like I said, the number one things for me as far as do's and don'ts was to be safe and to prioritize myself a little bit, make sure I got what I wanted and needed out of the dating process and out of the partner I eventually chose. What about you?
Yeah, I think I was the bad example of what not to do after going through a divorce. I think I learned from what not to do by doing what I shouldn't do. So I don't know, I think I was a little bit more desperate just not to be alone, because the hardest part about going through divorce, in my opinion, was the feeling of loneliness, of just being completely and utterly alone. And I did what I could to fill that loneliness with my relationship with Heavenly Father. However, there's just this big hole in your life. They're just like all of a sudden completely alone, and that's so hard. And so it's really hard because a lot of people are just like, I don't want to be alone, so I'm going to jump in whatever relationship I can. And that was kind of what I was. I I got on dating sites, and I know some people don't have any very much luck even getting people to talk to them on dating sites, especially for guys. And there's a lot of people on there that are just like, oh, I want something quick and easy that I don't have to put a lot of effort into. And so you have to be careful with people you meet on dating sites. I was probably, when I first started, I was probably one of those who just wanted a quick, easy relationship. I just wanted somebody to be there, or an excuse to go on dates and not be alone. And it was fun because I went on lots of dates and I got to know a lot of great people, but it was also like I'd go on a date and then I'd just feel really lonely afterwards again. And so I was like, well, I want to find something that's going to stick with me, but there weren't a lot of people that I was dating that had the values that I wanted because first off, I wasn't showing my expectations of what I wanted because I just wanted anybody, you know? And so I wasn't really sticking to my values as far as who I was being with or who I was spending my time with. And so I love what you said about sticking to your own values, remembering who you are and what you expect and deserve from a spouse. And I think that's so important. It took me a while to really get there. And sometimes you got to go on a lot of crummy dates or make some mistakes to be able to learn what you really need. And I kind of went through that learning process of making the mistakes and going on dates with crazy people and and I feel like it's strange because there's this like these rules, there's these unspoken rules about dating that completely have changed from when I was in high school versus after I got a divorce. Was like people had these like set rules and expectations that I didn't understand, and one of those being was we date to find a relationship or somebody we want to be with. But in order to do that, you have to date around and get to know people and decide until you find the right person. And so I had a lot of girls upset that I wouldn't go exclusive with them because I was still looking around and trying to figure things out. And and I would call things off and I had some great experiences where I'm like, "Hey, I don't see a future with you. Let's move on and you're a great person, but we're just not compatible." And she was super super fine with that. I did that a couple times with I think two different girls, and they were both really nice about it, really kind. But then I had another experience with a girl that she hated the idea that I was dating somebody, it's some other people at the same time, and even though I was completely transparent about it, and she kind of freaked out and she blasted me on social media all over and tried to slander my name, and it was kind of a crazy mess. And so I don't know. I think just being as respectful as you can towards people, and sometimes I probably in that instance I probably didn't really take her feelings into account as much as I should have. And I was just like, well, I'm following the rules, I'm doing what I should as far as like being transparent and trying to find a wife, but I should have been more considerate of her feelings. And so I think if you're being considerate of other people's feelings and how things are going to affect them while still being true to yourself and your own values, I think that's really important.
I think you said a couple of important things. One being you have to be really transparent with the people that you're talking to, the people that you're dating. Um, there was someone I met on, I don't even remember where, but online somewhere, um, and I was very open about being a mom. I have a daughter. I'm divorced. Like all of that was out in the open, and I matched with somebody that then said, and they said that they didn't have any kids on their profile. They didn't have any kids. But then once I matched with them, they were like, "Oh, by the way, I have a daughter." And that was a huge red flag for me. I'm like, I don't mind that you have a kid. That's totally fine. But why did you hide them from me? Why did you not put that on your profile? What else are you hiding? And so being very open about who you are and what you want is huge, because if you're saying, my name is Mallory, I have a daughter, I'm divorced, I'm looking for something serious, I want to get remarried, that's very different than, hi, I'm just looking to date. I want something casual. Or just being more obscure about what you want and who you are. It can cause a lot of issues and can cause those those miscommunications or misunderstandings where it's like, I thought we were exclusive. No, we're not. Those can be cleared up if both sides are willing to be upfront and honest. And that's so necessary in furthering your relationship too. That honesty.
Hmm. Absolutely. I had another thought and then it totally just slipped my mind, so I guess it wasn't that important.
That's okay.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of things to be aware of, and knowing what you want and being very self-aware after divorce. There was definitely this very self-inward evaluation that I had to go through and be like, okay, what do I want now? Do I want to jump into a new relationship? Do I want to find somebody to marry, or do I just want to stay single for a little bit? And I feel like those answers kind of changed on a day-to-day basis sometimes, and especially depending on what kind of experience I was having at that time. Some days I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to go through a marriage again. That seems terrifying, and I'm just better off taking care of my kids on my own and going through life." And then there are some days where I'm like, "I hate being alone. I want somebody to be with me." And but you really need to be aware of what you want and make goals in order to get there, and then be transparent with the person you're dating or potentially dating. And so yeah, I had some expectations when I met Mallory. It was amazing because, like I said before, a lot of people on dating sites, they just want something quick and easy. They don't want to put in effort into a new relationship. They just want it to magically happen or fall into their laps. And that's what set Mallory apart from the other girls, is she put in the effort. I didn't feel like I was just trying to like pull out a relationship from somebody or try to get somebody's attention. She was actively trying to get my attention too. She reached out first, which was a really big deal that never really happens on dating sites. It's always the guys that reach out first, but when she reached out first, that was a big deal. And she was actively like messaging, and of course we video called pretty much right away, and hit things off super well and super easy. And then one thing that I was really terrified of with my second marriage is we had gone through the dating process and talked about everything that I had expected. We talked about expectations in a relationship. We talked about what we wanted in a marriage. And that was like we were all verbally on the same page. We were both on the same page. And then when we actually got married and her ex came back into town, then she just completely forgot about those expectations, and she completely changed her ideals of the church and our relationship and everything. And so it's really important with Mallory. She was really good at showing and acting on what we talked about as far as expectations go. She was really good at showing me where her values were and what was important to her in her life. And so recognizing that our actions, our language, they speak to us. And so seeing somebody's actions in a relationship while dating, seeing what do they spend their time on, what do they actively do they actively serve you, do they actively search for ways to be helpful or kind, and do they treat others with love and respect. And those were all things that Mallory showed in her actions and not just her words. And so that's something I would recommend looking for.
That goes hand in hand with something that you and I have talked about, or we did talk about when we were dating quite a bit, is don't ignore the red flags. And you and I, when we were dating, we had this conversation where we would go, are we ignoring the red flags or are they just not there? And I had that conversation with myself too over and over again. Am I ignoring the red flags or are they just not there? And there were a lot of red flags in my first marriage that I did ignore. And I also just don't think I knew then that they were red flags. I was so inexperienced and so young, and so hopeful. I just had this ideal world painted in my mind, and I didn't think it would stray from that. And so now, with the experience that I do have, I was able to kind of go through the list of the things that the red flags I had experienced before, and the things that I was afraid of, and the things that I wanted in this relationship, and line it up with the reality, with the actions and not just the words, and come to a conclusion of whether or not I was ignoring those red flags or if they just weren't there. And luckily they just weren't there. So I think that's a big don't, is don't ignore them. And if you do see red flags, address them, and then move on from there. If you need to end the relationship, or if you need to make boundaries or whatever it is, don't ignore them, and definitely recognize how your potential spouse reacts to you bringing them up, because that's a huge deal too.
Yeah, that can be a red flag if it just from somebody's response.
Yeah.
I had to force myself, like you said, I had to force myself to be able to like look from an outside perspective and think, oh, what are things that could be a problem in a relationship? What are things that I see being a red flag or being a problem or coming up? And I actually made a list and I wrote them down. And I'm like, these are concerns that could happen. This is like worst case scenario. And I brought them up to her attention. I'm like, I wrote them down and I addressed them one at a time. And she was able to talk me through them and share her experiences with each one and be able to share her thoughts and feelings. And it really helped a lot. And and then I continue to follow up and see her actions to see, or is she just saying that so that I won't get scared and run away, or is she really gonna follow through with those? And she has continuously followed through with every single one of those, and I've really appreciated it for sure.
I think another thing that reminded me of is, no matter who you are, you have history. So when you're going into a new relationship, especially for people who are divorced, whether you're divorced or the person you're dating is divorced, or if both of you are, you have a history, you have past experiences and trauma that will come up. And so be patient with yourself and be patient with your partner, because I have had a lot come up for me in the dating process that has really scared me, and has kind of made me want to push him away or push dating away. And I've had to readjust and kind of recenter myself and say, I'm safe. This isn't what I've experienced in the past. It's just reminding me of that. And I can have grace for myself in this weird experience, and I can have grace for him when things like that come up for him too, because there have been a lot of experiences even in the last few weeks of marriage where triggers have come up for both of us, and we've had to work through it. And that's going to happen in the dating process, because everyone has a history. So be patient with yourself and with others.
Yeah. And even with red flags, if you see a red flag, but somebody's willing to work on them with you and they're like, yeah, I recognize this is a problem for me. I'm happy to set goals and work on things. I think you can work through things. I'm like, you can't just disregard somebody just because they have a red flag. The one red flag though that I'd say is an automatic turnoff for me is a lack of willingness to improve or try. And so, yeah, when you bring up things to somebody else, your spouse, and they're defensive and they're like, "Oh, I'm like you're just being mean," or "Oh, there's not a big deal," or whatever, then that's a good sign that they're not willing to work or improve on things. And so, in the dating pool, that's something you need to look out for.
Yeah. And that's something that I was really afraid of. Not so much somebody being unwilling, but me not not being able to then say no. If I could tell that they weren't a good fit for me, or if they weren't if those red flags did come up, I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to break it off or say, "Hey, I'm gonna move on," because that's not really my personality. So that was really scary. But you've got to find the confidence in yourself to stand up for what you want, to not only know what you want, but then to stand up for it when those things do come up.
I think they should normalize a phrase or some kind of like keyword in dating that just says, I don't see a future. I'm just going to disappear now.
So you don't actually have to ghost them. You can agree on it first and then be like, "We're done."
Yeah. Be like, cowabunga or banana shake. And they just know what that means. You're just like, ciao. It's just like a respectful, like, you're a great person.
Not right for me.
Not right for me. We'll see you later, you know? Instead of just disappearing. I had so many people that just ghosted me. Like, we'd go on dates and have a great time, and then they just disappear. And I'm like, I have no idea what happened. I think one person may have died. I'm just kidding. I don't think she just, but she just would disappear, and people would do that because they were too afraid of. And I get being afraid of people's reactions because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. However, I think ghosting them, you're hurting them even more because you have no, like, there's no explanation. Like, for all I know, they got kidnapped or something, you know? But yeah, even a simple explanation of like, hey, you're a great person.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something a little bit different, and I'm gonna move on. So
yeah,
I wish you the best. You know,
you'll feel better about yourself too if you handle it that way versus just disappearing.
Yeah.
But yeah, dating is so tricky, especially after divorce. But I think really it's just a matter of knowing who you are, knowing what you want, and being confident enough to go after it. There's, as a woman, dating online is scary. You really don't know who's on the other side of that message or that phone, and so one big do as far as dating goes is have someone else that knows where you're going. If you're going out with somebody, have someone that you know you can check in with, or you know you can talk to if you need a way out. Because there are so many good guys, and I am not saying that this is something that everyone will run into, but you do want to make sure that you're safe when you are meeting new people and going out on dates. So I felt like I had to put that in there too. I didn't experience anything where I felt unsafe, but I definitely messaged some guys that I would not want to be alone with. So stay safe and remember to just stand up for yourself.
Yeah. And another thing I would mention is sometimes the timing's not right, and it's just important to trust God to put somebody in your life when the timing's right. And sometimes the best thing we can do is take a step back and just focus on ourselves and things that we can improve in ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important, because there's a lot of times where I'm like, well, God's not putting somebody in my life right now, so how can I be prepared for when he does? And so I would just focus on myself. And I think there's a lot of people out there that they want to find love, they don't want to be alone anymore. But God's not putting somebody in your life right now because he knows that there's something that you need to work on in your life. And I think there's definitely things that I needed to work on in my life while I was going through the single stage. And so, yeah, think about, maybe stop worrying so much about what other people are doing around you, or who's ghosting you, or who's not being a good boyfriend or girlfriend, and think more about like, oh yeah, what can I do to be able to be a better future spouse? What are things that I can improve on and work on? What are habits that I can build to prepare to lead a family, or to help be there to support my spouse in any way? And so I think that's an amazing mindset to have. It's like, what can I do? What can I change in my life Can I read my scriptures more? Can I pray more? Can I keep my living space clean? Can I start working out more? Just things that'll improve and benefit your life. And even if you don't find somebody, your life's more improved and you're gonna feel more fulfilled and complete in your life doing that.
Yeah, and that'll help the confidence too in dating.
Oh yeah.
If you're if you're happy with who you are, then it's a lot easier to have confidence, to be ready to have someone else enter your life.
Yep. And that makes a big difference when dating. And don't be afraid to talk to people. Go out, make mistakes,
Yeah.
learn from your mistakes. But yeah, talk to people. Don't be shy. Even if it doesn't work out, it's okay. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So,
I agree.
yeah.
Dating can be scary, but you've got this.
Yep. Well, anyway, is there anything else you wanted to add?
God loves you.
No. If you have any of your own personal experiences while dating after divorce, or horror stories, or things that you recommend or think that people should know about, reach out to us, let us know, or just comment on our video, and we'd love to hear your experiences about them. So,
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
thank you.